feel like that Sixth Sense kid every day in my neighborhood with something else. Yesterday it was federal agents. Or the other day, I was like seeing them everywhere. Not everywhere, but I'm noticing them. They're easy to point out. Today is another thing. You know, there's always something. I gotta know, you know, I gotta keep noticing them. I want to just bring up today doors. Not the doors, but actually doors. Portals. Portals. And the occult importance of doorways that you walk through. You ever go into a room that you're going in that, yeah, well, I mean, I can rephrase that. You ever walk into a room and you're like, why did I come in here? I do that a lot. Or, you know, you walk into a room and you just feel like sort of the mood change. I mean, that, of course, can be dependent on who's there, like people that are there, you know. Because what happens is when you cross a door, which is a portal, the energy changes from one area to another. Each walled-in area, right, is going to display frequency. Hi, I'm frequency. Get your shit together. It's going to display frequency differently, and that depends on the size of the room. Or like, just for instance, like say you get a radio and you take it into your stairwell. You're only going to get so much reception there. You take it out into like a garden or something, you're going to get a lot more reception. The way frequency moves in a room is dependent on its size, its height, the whole deal. So it's always going to change from room to room. And with those changes, it's like a reset. It's a reset of, am I making sense here? No. What I'm saying is, passing between rooms is a much bigger deal than we think it is. And people used to know that. If you look at the old architecture, doors and doorways, a lot of times they have these very ornate kind of markings. A lot of times what they would do is they would be trying to manipulate the frequencies in that room with the markings they would make on the doorways. Like if you look at some of the older stuff, the older architecture, like even churches and stuff, when you enter them, there may be different markings or carvings, and not even blatant stuff, just in the design of it. Well, what that was intended to do was to change the frequency when you went into the next room, or somehow try to guide the frequency. Or people would have called it at some point spirits or energies or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I just tend to always go back to frequency, because to me that's kind of really what it is. And it's easier for people to understand in relation to, say, like, you know, trying to get a radio station in. Or like the example I use all the time, like you'll be in your car listening to the radio. You'll be tuned into one station, whatever it is, hip-hop station. Why is half my wardrobe 90s hip-hop? It is. It is. Half my wardrobe is Death Row Records, Tupac, John Singleton movies. I don't know what that's all about. But you could be listening to a hip-hop station, and just because you're tuned into that doesn't mean that all the others aren't in there. In that area where you're sitting, you're hearing the hip-hop station, but you're getting the classical station, you're getting the rock station, you're getting everything. Because they're all there. They're all around you all the time, all these frequencies. You're just tuned in to the hip-hop one. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I think you do. So, in the same way, just look at everything. Like little radio stations. Language, too, like when people speak. Like how I talk about sometimes knowing when, getting a feeling that someone's talking bullshit, like they're lying. Because lies are on their own frequency. Truth is on its own frequency. Everything has like a frequency attached to it, or travels on a frequency. When you go through a doorway, it kind of reboots that frequency. It kind of changes it. And that's why your thought process can sometimes be shifted because depending on the size of the room, the intensity of whatever the dominant frequencies are can submerge other stuff that you may have been thinking or may have had at the top of your brain. In this case, like say you go into a room and you're like, well, you're looking for something, and then you get in there and you're like, I don't remember why I'm in here. Or you can't find like your keys or something. That's all dependent, not all dependent, but if you pass through like a portal or a doorway, it changes those frequencies. It doesn't really scramble your brain, but it can reorder things in your mind. Like it can put the things that were important in the kitchen can then be knocked down to third or fourth place. I hope I'm explaining this good. I'm not good at explaining things. I try though. God loves a trier, and I think that's the important thing. But yeah, so in the olden times, in the long ago, in the very, very, very far away, they knew this shit, and that's why a lot of older buildings, a lot of like neo-classical architecture, old world architecture, Gothic architecture, they have all their windows and doorways are adorned with different little things, little statues. That's not always why they did it, but those who knew how that affected frequency or affected energies would put things there. Churches are designed for sound, like big time, like all their stuff down to the stained glass windows that would take in outside sunlight. It would use that sunlight and they'd be transformed to stained glass windows to give it more power, more strength or something. I had that explained to me one time and I didn't really get it, but I understood what they were going for. Now, I believe churches at one point were built to be houses of healing. Not in a hospital sense, but in a sense that you can be healed by treating the different frequencies in your body that could promote healing or promote growth. And if you look at it in a modern science lens, stimulation at the cellular level would be what that would kind of be. And they'd kind of do that to heal things in our more barbaric modern times. So what I think would happen is you would maybe sit in there or however they had it, and they would play certain notes and certain sounds. And every church has one of those pipe organs. Who knows how old those things are? It could be a refitted or refurbished new one, but I believe if you look at the way those things are shaped, like if you're a musician, I'm barely a musician, they can give you a good idea of how things are going to sound by looking at like a venue. And like a church, looking at a church, it doesn't seem like it favors one kind of range over another. Like they're called lower, mids, highs. You know, your mids, usually if you're recording, it's like a lot of cymbals, a lot of guitars in your mids, your lowers, your bass. It doesn't favor one over the other. It just seems kind of universal. Almost as if they wanted to make sure that everything that was being played in there, every sound that they were using in there was being heard. Because those sounds, those frequencies, I mean, that's where you are. You're just frequency. So you could be healed through sound, through the notes they play. So they could have been playing music that was like healing. Like it's like that's what it was, like a houses of healing. And if you look at the older churches too, with a lot of them have what some of the Tertarian guys, are referred to as antiquitech. They replaced them with crosses and other religious iconography, but there's always older like metal stuff sticking out of the top of them. That could have been what drew the energy for these large buildings. And the fact that none of them had like fireplaces built into them, again, none of them had heat, none of them had like bathrooms. Like if you look at a lot of these old world buildings, they don't have those kind of things. It's almost as if, almost like we didn't need those things. You know, like we didn't need to stay warm, we didn't need to use a bathroom. It's very bizarre. That leads to a whole nother, you know, can of worms as far as theory goes. But just a thought, you know, when you walk around the house today or you go outside. Like just when I came outside, like when I was in the house, I was like, I'm just going to stay in here all day. I'm really comfortable in here. Like making myself coffee. I'm like, you know, my house is very cozy. I'm surrounded by a bunch of shit I like. You've been in there. So it's like, I can get wrapped up and stay in there. I didn't want to leave. I'm like, I'm just going to stay in all day. And then I just, I had to throw some garbage away. And when I opened the door to go outside, and I looked at the mountains, and I felt the wind hit me. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in there? Why am I in there? And then within a few steps, I'm like, why would I even go back in there? That's a perfect example of how passing through a portal can change you. Change your presence of mind. That's how it works. So just, I don't know what you can do about it. I'm not, you know, just be mindful of it. You know, if you can experiment with stuff, experiment with stuff. I'm always experimenting with shit. Just something to think about. I'll be back in a little bit. I got a bunch of different things I want to clear out of my my talk about folder. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.